The pure school beauty rushed to my door despite the heavy rain, just to spend one night with me, but I refused her. The next day, the school beauty died tragically in the alley by my house. After that, I carried guilt in my heart. After getting into police academy, I frantically investigated the real culprit. But the heavy rain had washed away all traces. For a full 10 years, not a single clue was found. But a sudden bolt of lightning actually sent me back to this fork in the road of fate. Classmate Goo, I heard your parents are doing business away from home, and you're alone. Can you let me stay at your place for a few days? I can do housework in exchange. I looked at the person before me, and instinctively reached out to touch her. Byway instinctively wanted to dodge. But for the sake of asking for help, she forced herself to stay stiffly in place. The cool sensation came through my fingertips. Her slightly trembling reaction was clearly telling me, she's still alive. I really came back. Oh, I'm sorry. Byway hurriedly stepped back. Her foot slipped, and she fell backward. I quickly and deftly caught her waist, and pulled her into my arms. Amid the sound of the heavy rain, silence fell between the two of us. She stiffened in my arms, not daring to move. I quickly let go and stepped back to the edge of the light. You look so cold. I instinctively wanted to give you some warmth. Sorry. It's okay. I stepped aside, and welcomed her into the house. Looking at her pale and bloodless face, my thoughts couldn't help but surge. In my past life, the criminal committed this crime in Shinhai City and then disappeared without a trace. This time, I not only want to save her, but also use years of criminal investigation experience and go to the crime scene tonight to expose the real culprit. Byway stood nervously in the entryway, fidgeting awkwardly with the hem of her clothing. Seeing me turn to get slippers, she became even more flustered. My socks are wet. I'll dirty the slippers. I'll just go in barefoot. I'll help you mop the floor later. On a stormy, rainy night, a man and woman alone together in a room, being completely soaked, made her fall into extreme unease. She dug her nails deep into her palm, forcing herself to calm down, taking advantage of my turning away. She quickly scanned the surroundings with her peripheral vision, only after seeing the hot tea and messy cardboard boxes on the coffee table. Did her tightly wound back relax slightly? If you don't mind, use the towel to dry your hair first. Can I borrow a change of clothes? My clothes are a bit wet. Only then did I notice her tightly clutching her soaked shirt, since you need to change clothes anyway. You might as well take a hot bath. Otherwise, getting cold will make you sick. The guest room doesn't have a bathtub. Use the bathroom in my room. I'll go run the hot water. Hearing that she would bathe in my bathroom, Byway shyly lowered her head and responded with a voice as soft as a mosquito's hum. The sound of rushing water came from the bathroom. Byway looked at my busy silhouette and finally gathered courage. Classmate Goo, just call me by my name. You want to ask why I didn't ask you for your reason for coming here? Byway looked up in surprise and nodded with eyes full of curiosity. A girl as pretty as you, knocking on someone's door in heavy rain, seeking shelter. There's definitely a reason you had no choice. Since it's not convenient to say, I won't press. Pressing would be impolite. Hearing these words, Byway's eyes turned red. I finished running the hot water, got up and slowly walked to stand before her, suddenly raised my hand and leaned on the wall beside her ear, encircling her. I'm not worried you have any ulterior motives. But aren't you afraid of staying here? That I might take advantage of you? Byway leaned against the wall, gently biting her lip, only feeling a warm current rising throughout her body. I trust you. Her beautiful eyes boldly looked directly at me. This response directly shut down all space for me to continue probing. Thinking that there was still important business to handle tonight, I smiled and withdrew my hand. You go take a bath. Here are some clothes to change into, with your figure. These clothes can completely be worn as a one-piece dress. First, substitute for your wet clothes. Put them in the washing machine. After washing, put them in the dryer. They'll dry quickly. Thank you. Byway turned and went into the bathroom. This thank you. Half was gratitude for taking her in. Half was gratitude for my understanding and tolerance. Listening to the sound of water from the bathroom, I smiled and turned to leave the bedroom to prepare ginger tea. After a while, the bathroom door opened. Byway walked out wearing a large hoodie. Her cheeks flushed a light pink from the steam, revealing fair skin above her knees. The slippers have already been placed out for you. Byway put on the warmed, fuzzy slippers. The shyness in her heart dissipated quite a bit, just stepping out of the bedroom. She smelled the sweet, warm aroma of honey ginger soup. I approached holding a mug. My gaze swept over the wide collar of her hoodie. My throat moved slightly. Come drink some ginger sugar water. Byway took the mug and sipped it in small mouthfuls. Should I cook some noodles for you? Would that be too much trouble? What trouble? It's a matter of a few minutes. You sit first. I'll add 2 eggs for you. I had just started to get up when a small hand grabbed me. I know how to fry poached eggs. Let me help too. Coming to the kitchen, my clean and swift knife skills surprised Byway greatly. Neatly cut tomatoes and ham were quickly prepared on the cutting board. Byway stepped onto a small stool and tiptoed to reach the egg carton on the top shelf. With her movement, the large hoodie hem instantly lifted up. I caught a glimpse with my peripheral vision. My face instantly turned red. Byway seemed to notice my gaze and hurriedly pulled the hoodie hem down, but she lost her footing on the small stool. I quickly reached out from behind to steady her, but my palm accidentally slid to a place it shouldn't touch. Her body went limp, and she fell directly into my arms. The sandalwood scent of her hair and the citrus scent of her body wash suddenly blended together. We both froze in place, until the boiling water splashed out. Breaking this enchanting moment, I quickly withdrew my hand, stepped back half a step, and stuffed a strainer into her hand. You stir. I'll get the eggs. Turning around, I caught a glimpse of my reddened ear tips in the mirror. So all these years, it wasn't that I had no feelings for girls, but that no second person could make my heart flutter like this. Bai Wei lowered her flushed face and stirred the noodles. The sizzling sound of the oil perfectly masked the thundering of her heartbeat. The aroma of tomato noodle soup quickly filled the kitchen. I brought the noodles to the table, deliberately avoiding her slightly trembling fingertips. Careful, it's hot. Pick whatever channel you want to watch. The instant the TV lit up, Bai Wei suddenly gripped her chopsticks tightly. The screen was actually playing study materials I had forgotten to switch away from. The content was extremely explicit. I awkwardly gave a light cough, quickly switched to the TV on-demand interface, and casually opened Crayon Shin-chan. I almost forgot. Back then, it was precisely because I was afraid of being discovered watching this that I refused to let the school beauty in. Fortunately, after so many years of growth, my skin has become much thicker now. Without blushing or a racing heart, I pretended nothing happened and quickly switched channels. Bai Wei also quickly changed the subject. So your cooking is this good. I took a tissue and gently wiped away the tiny beads of sweat on the tip of her nose. You've broken a sweat. The cold has been driven out. Eat slowly. There's more in the pot. She focused on eating her noodles. She finished every last bit of noodles and soup, face full of satisfaction, full after just one bowl. His words had barely fallen when a sudden thunderclap exploded outside the window. I reflexively looked at the wall clock, 9:57. Only about half an hour left before the crime time in my past life. This time I must see the true face of the murderer clearly. Time was pressing. I prepared to immediately head out to investigate near the crime scene. I brought a glass of water and a blanket and covered her with it. Since you're full, watch TV in the living room first. I'll wash the bowls when I get back later. I'm going out to buy some late-night snacks. Back soon. Going out in such heavy rain. It's fine. It's very close. Walking to the door, I suddenly stopped and turned around. I was worried the criminal had premeditated the crime and might have already been following her and lurking nearby. Remember before I get back, don't open the door for anyone who rings the doorbell. I have a key and won't ring the doorbell. Hearing my instructions, Bai Wei nodded obediently like a little cat and wrapped herself tightly in the blanket. As the door closed, looking at the empty room, she curled up on the sofa quietly waiting for me to return. I opened the black umbrella and stepped into the rain, glanced at my waterproof watch. The time was 21:58. In my past life, the forensic examiner estimated Bai Wei's time of death was around 10:30. My target tonight was the 24-hour convenience store on the route she had to pass in her past life. In the past life, Bai Wei borrowed an umbrella at the convenience store and only walked toward the crime alley after eating something. Although she stayed at my place tonight, I must confirm whether the timeline would undergo a substitution correction. Having another person die in that place instead of Bai Wei, I absolutely would not allow such a thing to happen. On the way, I took out my phone to check the home surveillance cameras. In the footage, Bai Wei was curled up on the sofa, hugging her knees, watching TV, confirming she was obediently staying home and not running around. I quickened my pace. Just arriving near the convenience store, I heard a muffled groan. A slender figure was curled up beside the trash cans at the alley entrance. Several thugs were surrounding and beating him, arrogantly demanding to know what he was hiding in his hands. The person pinned to the ground was gripping tightly a light gray handkerchief. A tin box had fallen nearby. I recognized at a glance that this was my classmate, Ye Sai, who was withdrawn and often bullied. Hearing my voice, those thugs suddenly turned around, their faces instantly turning pale. Since my parents had considerable influence in Xinghai, these thugs were usually very wary of me. I hadn't even put down my umbrella, and they fled in panic as if they had seen a ghost. The alley was left with only the sound of rain beating on the tin shed. I crouched down and steadily held the umbrella over Yessie's head. Are you okay? Do you want me to take you to the hospital? Her wrist still bore the burn scar from 3 months ago. I reached out to help her up, but she recoiled as if from an electric shock. The tin box knocked against the wall. Several crayons and half a bag of cat food rolled into the muddy water. She bent down to pick things up, her soaked bangs covering the teardrop mole at the corner of her eye. I noticed the dark brown stains in the gaps of her left-hand fingernails, looking like dried blood. In such heavy rain, you still came out to feed stray cats, Yesai mumbled a response, and suddenly broke into violent coughing, her thin shoulders trembling in the rain. I took off my jacket and tossed it to her. Isn't your mom away on business again? If you get sick again, Who will take care of your little brother? Just at this moment, a surveillance footage image from my past life suddenly flashed through my mind. In the past life, Bai Wei seemed to have seen something outside the convenience store before walking toward the alley. Seeing Ye Sai at this moment, I suddenly had a moment of clarity. Bai Wei at that time must have seen the scene of Ye Sai being bullied. Various details from my past life flashed rapidly through my mind. If in the past life Bai Wei came to stop this bullying when she left the convenience store, her completely soaked appearance would very likely have turned these thugs' bullying eyes toward harassing her instead. I tried hard to recall Yessie's demeanor on the Monday following in my past life. Her injuries then were much worse than now, yet she had no strong reaction to Bai Wei's death. This indicated that in the past life she very likely risked her life to hold back the thugs. So Bai Wei wasn't taken away by them. Since it wasn't them who did it, then the real culprit is someone else. After a round of deduction, I instantly locked onto a key piece of information: the murder weapon. On a rainy night like this, whoever went out carrying that deadly knife, they would be the biggest suspect. Thinking that those 3 thugs very likely had knives on them, I immediately regretted letting them go just now. As for the injured Ye Sai, in the past life she lived well until graduation. For now I can only set her aside first. If you're okay, go home quickly. I had just lifted my foot to leave, and stopped again to look at Ye Sai's broken umbrella. Thrust the black umbrella in my hand into hers. Your umbrella is broken. Use mine. I have things to do and can't walk you home. Be careful. Go home quickly. Without waiting for Ye Sai to refuse, I'd already plunged into the heavy rain, and ran until I was nowhere to be seen. Because of the heavy rain, those 3 thugs hadn't run far, and were sheltering under an eave. They were grumbling and discussing whether to put a burlap sack over my head in revenge, but were held back by my family's background and didn't dare act rashly. Just as they were wavering with uncertainty, I had already rushed to stand before them at extreme speed. The 3 thugs were startled, thinking I'd come to demand money. They kept waving their hands and backing away. Hey, friends, I'd like to borrow something from you 3. The 3 exchanged glances, eyes full of wariness. Not money, something else. The 3 looked at me with puzzled faces. I stared at them, and showed a harmless smile. Show me your knives. The 3 thugs froze in place, obviously not understanding my request. You 3 who run the streets, surely you don't go out without even a knife? The reverse psychology tactic worked as expected. Greenhair indignantly pulled a butterfly knife from his pocket, and showed it off in front of me. I only glanced at it once, and determined this was definitely not the fruit knife with clean-cut edges from the forensic report. This one is too flashy. I'll pay 100 yuan to buy something more like a fruit knife, under the promise of reward. The other 2 thugs competed to pull out their knives: a multifunction Swiss Army knife, and a military-grade folding hunting knife gleaming with cold light. Neither knife was the murder weapon I was looking for. The knives were good knives. Too bad I only brought 100 yuan. I ignored them. The thugs, suspecting they'd been played, grumbled and cursed, and turned directly to plunge back into the cold rain. These 3 thugs didn't have the murder weapon I was looking for. This lead was completely cut off. An intense feeling of anxiety burned in my chest. Actually, the simplest way to solve the case would be to refuse Bai Wei like in my past life, then secretly follow her and catch the real culprit red-handed at the crime scene. But given a second chance, the moment I saw her safe and sound, I simply could not suppress the stirring in my heart. I would rather choose a needle in a haystack investigation than risk her life by even the slightest amount again. I went back to the convenience store to buy an umbrella. The kind store clerk handed me a clean towel to wipe the rainwater from my head. I thanked them, wiped away the water, and put my phone into a waterproof bag. Then, imitating Bai Wei's movements and route when she went out in my past life, I opened the umbrella again and stepped into the stormy rain. Just stepping into the rain, the strong wind nearly snapped the umbrella ribs, stepping through mud and broken glass everywhere. I finally arrived at the starting point of the surveillance camera blind spot. This was precisely the crime scene repeatedly mentioned in the trace examination report from my past life. The waterproof watch glowed faintly, showing 22:17. A sudden gust of wind directly flipped the umbrella inside out. I simply put the umbrella away, letting the ice-cold rain pour down on me. My phone vibrated in the waterproof case. I leaned against the damp brick wall and opened the home surveillance camera. In the warm yellow glow, Bai Wei was curled up in the corner of the sofa, her feet rubbing together restlessly, her gaze frequently looking toward the front door. That expression carrying anticipation and tinged with worry. Just wait a little longer. Don't be anxious. The time reached 22:29. A sound of metal clashing suddenly came from the end of the alley. I immediately moved cautiously toward it, but unexpectedly saw a familiar face. Zhang Yan, the notorious school bully of Xinghai 2 High School. At this moment he was sitting under the awning of an unauthorized building, peeling an apple with a fruit knife. Isn't this old Gu? on such a stormy night, without even an umbrella. What are you doing here? Went out to handle some business. The umbrella was blown inside out by the wind. You're out here this late too. Zhangyan used the knife tip to pick up a wrinkled apple from a plastic bag. I knew her school bully identity was just a protective facade. Her family was poor, and her mother suffered from severe kidney failure, brought some fruit to her mother, but was sent away. The edges of her shoes were stained with the non-slip floor material common in hospital corridors. Her body carried the distinctive disinfectant smell of intensive care units. However, my gaze was fixed firmly on the fruit knife in her hand. The characteristics of this knife matched the description of the murder weapon in Bai Wei's case exactly. Why are you standing there? Come over to my place quickly. It's right nearby. I'll lend you an umbrella. I had just walked into the awning when Zhangyan's phone suddenly rang urgently. The voice of a panicked nurse came from the other end of the call, saying her mother's blood oxygen had dropped sharply. Zhangyan's expression instantly changed. The fruit knife fell into the puddle with a splash. She didn't even have time to say goodbye, and turned to sprint madly into the heavy rain. I bent down and picked up that knife from the muddy water. A cold sensation came through. After careful examination, I completely confirmed that appearing at this time in this location, the size and style matched perfectly. This was the key murder weapon that killed Bai Wei in my past life. If the murder weapon was accidentally dropped by Zhang Yan, then the real culprit very likely would pass by and pick it up within the next half hour. I took a deep breath and tossed the knife back to where it was. Drawing on years of criminal investigation experience, I hid in the shadows and quietly lay in wait. The rain poured down heavily. 22:35. A staggering homeless man reeking of alcohol stumbled into the shelter. He kicked over a tin can, his mud-caked cloth shoes grinding heavily over the knife handle, pressing the blade deep into the mud. Then he left swaying with half a bottle of leftover liquor. 22:47. A delivery rider braked his bike sharply, accidentally stepped on the knife and fell. He got up cursing and kicked the knife into a gap in the drain. Mud instantly covered the entire knife. The time reached 22:55. It was now extremely difficult for the knife buried under mud to be accidentally discovered. Only a few minutes remained before the estimated time of Bai Wei's death in my past life. Suddenly, a shadowy figure wearing a black raincoat and mask appeared from the end of the alley. He hunched his back, walked directly toward the knife covered by mud, and crouched down. Every muscle in my body instantly tensed like a bowstring. At the moment he reached out and gripped the knife handle, a striking sulfuric acid burn scar was prominently visible on the wrist exposed at his sleeve. I suddenly stepped out from the shadows, and in the dim light completely saw the face beneath the raincoat. It was actually the famously nice person of Xinghai No. 2 High School, chemistry teacher Li Ming Yuan. My heart was rocked by enormous waves of shock. 3 months ago, it was he who shielded the rowdy students in the laboratory and got burned by sulfuric acid himself. He even gently comforted the students who caused the incident afterward. He was also famously devoted to his wife. Not a single bad word about him anywhere. But if the culprit was him, all the suspicious points from my past life would make sense. In the past life, Bai Wei was attacked in the dark alley, but there were no traces of her trying to escape, precisely because she also absolutely trusted this gentle, nice person. If Li Mingyuan offered to shield her from the rain with his raincoat and take her home to be cared for by his wife, in that situation of extreme helplessness on a stormy night, Bai Wei would have had absolutely no guard whatsoever. Thinking about this, I felt an indescribable heartache, but I couldn't act rashly. After all, the current Li Mingyuan hadn't committed the crime yet. I decided to use criminal investigation techniques to probe his purpose for going out late at night. Teacher Li. Li Mingyuan immediately looked up, seeing my completely soaked appearance, his face filled with surprise and concern. Oh, Gu Nancheng. How did you get this soaked? Went out to handle some business. Got caught in the rain. Teacher Li, why did you come out in such heavy rain? I stared fixedly at his expression, sharply catching a flash of hesitation in the depths of his eyes. Nothing much. Just came out to buy a pack of cigarettes. He was lying. Li Mingyuan didn't smoke at all, and was universally recognized as a devoted family man. My raincoat is roomy. Borrow it to shelter for now. I'll take you to my home, then lend you the raincoat to wear back. He still had that same kind and approachable demeanor. I nodded blankly, and got under his raincoat. In the cramped space, I noticed his gaze instinctively sweep past the adult product vending machine nearby, then quickly retract, putting his arm around my shoulder. Along the way, I was like a walking corpse, completely lost in thought. Arriving at the door, Li Mingyuan suddenly pulled out his phone, sent a message, then quickly put it away. I forgot to bring my keys. Wait a moment. But I'd clearly felt keys clipped to his waist just now. This was his second lie tonight. My suspicions kept growing. After a while, the door finally opened. The one who opened the door was Li Mingyuan's wife, the school's chemistry teacher Shen Qing. She was wearing a silk robe, the belt loosely tied, her cheeks flushed. The warm light from the entryway spilled out. I glimpsed a toppled wine bottle on the living room coffee table, a lit aromatherapy candle, and scattered rose petals. The air was filled with a lingering, intimate atmosphere. At this moment, my mind suddenly cleared. All the clues instantly connected into a clear sequence. Teacher Lee had originally planned a romantic evening with his wife tonight, but found the supplies had run out and went out in the rain to buy more. Out of his habitual kindness, he casually cleared debris blocking a drain, and accidentally picked up that fruit knife. Because he ran into me, he felt awkward going to buy the items, and also wasn't at ease leaving me alone, so he brought me back with him. And his earlier pretense of not having keys and sending a text was just to give his wife, who was wearing linguri, time to change. All of his unusual behavior at this moment found a reasonable explanation. How did you get this soaked? Sorry about that. Quickly take this towel and dry off. Thank you, ma'am. I took the towel and wiped my hair. But the suspicion in my heart turned into even greater confusion. If he was still that same nice person, if his wife was waiting eagerly at home for an intimate reunion, would a man like this really act on lustful impulse and murder and dispose of a female student on the road? Shen Qing noticed Lai Mingyuan was still holding a dirty knife, and asked curiously, "Where did you pick up that knife? Why is it so dirty?" Picked it up at a drain opening. It was blocking some trash. Happened to run into Gu Nancheng and forgot to throw it away. Lai Mingyuan said this while preparing to toss the knife into the trash bin. But I suddenly sensed something was off. Wait a moment. Teacher Lee, let me take a look at that knife. Li Mingyun puzzled flipped the knife around. Blade pointed inward, handle pointed outward, and handed it to me. This instinctive protective gesture once again confirmed his inherent gentleness. I took the fruit knife and examined it carefully. My expression instantly changed. The light had been too dim earlier. I hadn't noticed this knife's blade actually had a slight curl. This was clearly caused by Jiang Yan using it to cut something hard. The forensic report had no mention of a curled blade at all. The cut marks would show obvious differences. This meant the real murder weapon was definitely not this knife. I had completely locked onto the wrong target. I quickly turned my wrist, glanced at my watch. It was already 23 o'clock. The real culprit might just be appearing now. My heart raced with urgency. I quickly handed the towel back to Shin Qing. Sorry, Teacher Lee. It's gotten too late. I need to hurry home. I'll borrow your raincoat for now. I pushed the knife handle back into Li Mingyuan's hand, put on the raincoat, and plunged into the heavy rain. I ran all the way back to the crime scene, searching the area back and forth several times. Occasionally passers-by hurried past, but none seemed like someone who would stop midway to commit a crime. 23:30. The streets were already empty. I took out my phone to check the surveillance. Bai Wei was curled up on the sofa, nodding off sleepily like a chicken pecking at rice, but still forcing herself to stay awake, occasionally glancing at the door waiting for me to come home. I clenched my fists, simply took off the raincoat, and continued wandering near the dark crime scene until the time past midnight. I still hadn't seen a single suspicious figure. My heart was filled with a deep sense of helplessness and chill. Could I have really missed it? If I couldn't find the culprit, how could Bai Wei's past life injustice ever be cleared? I tilted my head up, letting the heavy rain hit my face. My gaze grew increasingly determined. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. I immediately opened the surveillance app. In the footage, Bai Wei, although drowsy with sleepiness, still forced herself to endure her fear of being alone. Walking to the door pacing with a worried expression. Hello, hello, hello. The sudden voice startled her. She quickly looked toward the surveillance camera, following the sound. Gu Nancheng. I got held up by something. I'll be back soon. If you're tired, just go ahead and sleep. As long as you're okay. I'm not tired yet. I'll wait for you to come back. She gave the camera a gentle smile. I promise I'll be back right away. She dragged her tired body back into the blanket, her expression finally relaxing quite a bit. Looking at the empty street, I stood in the heavy rain, letting the cold water pour over me. This was a habit of mine for many years. Cold water could quickly activate my brain. I began frantically retracing everything I encountered tonight. The convenience store Yi Si, the three thugs. I forcibly put everyone on the list of suspects. Yi Si, when she was robbed by the thugs, her backpack was turned upside down. Not a single coin could be found on her, let alone a weapon. Ruled out. The three thugs. Although they had motive, the knife types they carried didn't match at all. Ruled out. The knife the homeless man and delivery rider touched also wasn't the real murder weapon. After ruling out everyone impossible, my memory rewound and locked onto someone I had originally thought was absolutely impossible, Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan, because her mother was critically ill, rushed to the hospital and left the knife at the scene. But if her mother's condition stabilized quickly, half an hour would be enough for her to make a round trip to the hospital. What if on her way back, she discovered she'd lost the knife and went to a nearby shop to buy a new fruit knife? The case file did indeed have a record. Between 22 o'clock and 23 o'clock that night, someone bought a fruit knife in the rain and her return time. Perfectly avoided the period when I was at Teacher Lai's house. Sorting through the entire chain of evidence, Zhang Yan's suspicion instantly expanded enormously. Verifying this theory was simple. Go knock on Zhang Yan's door right now. If she had already returned home and really bought a new knife, then her suspicion would be completely confirmed. I followed my memory to near her home. My heart suddenly sank. The lights in her home were actually on. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. The door opened. Zhang Yan was bare-chested. A towel draped over her head. Olga. What the hell? Still not home this late. Where did that raincoat come from? I walked into the room. My gaze instantly locked onto a brand new fruit knife on the table. The mysterious person from the case file who bought a knife in the rain late at night was really her. Teacher Lee picked me up. You just got back? Yeah, my mom's condition had some issues just now. I was in such a hurry, I forgot to lend you an umbrella. What are you doing out this late instead of going home? Nothing. Just like walking around in the rain. You ran off in such a hurry the knife fell on the ground. Why did you buy a new one? Damn. No wonder I searched all my pockets and couldn't figure out where it went. Teacher Lee must have picked it up to throw away. Forget it then. That knife had a slight curl in the blade from cutting wood anyway. Just bought a new one on the way. He laughed casually. But my heart sank into gloom. His return time perfectly matched the time of the crime. And she really did buy the same model of weapon. The suspicion absolutely could not be ruled out. I weighed my words carefully and decided to probe directly. Zhang Yan. We're friends, right? How could it not be? We're all good buddies. Are you dealing with something? Just tell your buddy straight. Looking at her righteous demeanor, I looked directly into her eyes. I don't want to one day see you locked up for committing a crime. Think about the consequences before acting. Your mom needs you to take care of her. Don't do anything illegal. Zhang Yan froze. She completely misunderstood my meaning, thinking I had found out about her secret plan to sell fake cigarettes at school. Not only did she not get angry, but was deeply moved that I came in the rain to advise her. Don't worry. Others may not know my style of doing things. But you do, right? I won't do it. Seeing my objective achieved, I stood up to take my leave. I had no idea. This accidental warning made her completely give up the idea of selling fake cigarettes. As I turned to walk into the rain, she thumped her chest dramatically behind me, secretly vowing that I was her lifelong best buddy. With complicated feelings, I said goodbye to Zhang Yan, took Teacher Lai's raincoat and quietly returned to her door, left the raincoat there. Some faint sounds that would make one blush could be heard from inside, so I didn't make a sound to disturb them. Walking home all the way in the heavy rain, my mood gradually eased. If Zhang Yan really was the culprit, then her current self was at least still in a stage where she could be properly guided to dispel any malicious intent. Among everyone I met tonight, for now no one had heavier suspicion than her. Returning home, it was already past midnight. With the sound of the door opening, Bai Wei, who had been half asleep in the blanket, suddenly opened her eyes, seeing me return. She immediately broke into a happy smile and trotted over quickly. But as soon as she got close, she found I was soaked like a drowned rat. You went to buy a late-night snack. How did you get yourself this soaked all over? The wind and rain were too strong. The umbrella broke. The snack got blown away too. No food for you. You should go take a hot bath quickly. You'll catch a cold like this. Seeing her face full of concern, I smiled. The guest room bed only has a hard board. Nothing is set up. You can make do sleeping on the sofa tonight. Or squeeze in with me. I'll sleep on the sofa. Just kidding. You sleep on the bed. I'll take the sofa. Let me take a bath first. Not wanting to get the freshly mopped floor all wet, I simply took off my water-soaked wet clothes right there in the living room. Hearing the sound of fabric rustling, Bai Wei instinctively looked up. The taut muscle lines made her heart pound like a drum. She felt her face burning hot. Her throat felt as if stuffed with cotton, unable to make a sound. I'm gonna take a bath first. I'll call you to go sleep in the bedroom once I'm done. I hadn't noticed her unusual reaction, and took the wet clothes into the bathroom. Bai Wei nodded mechanically. Only when the sound of rushing water came from the bathroom did she collapse onto the sofa as if her bones had been pulled out, pressing the back of her hand tightly against her burning hot cheek. After an unknown amount of time, I came out wrapped in a towel, originally wanting to call her to go sleep in the bedroom, but found her curled up in the sofa hugging the blanket like a kitten fast asleep, making soft and peaceful breathing sounds. I walked over slowly, crouched down, quietly gazing at her sleeping face. Watching her steady breathing, I still had a dreamlike sense of unreality as I reached out to brush the hair from her face. A still wet droplet from my arm happened to fall onto her slightly parted lips. She unconsciously licked it, startling me into quickly tensing my fingers. A thunderclap outside the window. Bai Wei suddenly turned over and kicked half the blanket off. I instinctively reached out to catch it, but touched her warm ankle instead. I could clearly feel that her previously steady breathing had become uneven, her eyelashes trembling intensely, her body temperature rising. She was awake, but hadn't opened her eyes. I didn't call her out on it. Instead, I scooped her up along with the blanket and walked steadily toward the bedroom. The girl in my arms grew increasingly tense. I gently set her down on the bed, pulled out the blanket, and covered her with my own quilt. Then I bent down close to her ear. Good night. The warm breath made her instinctively shrink her neck. I smiled and turned to walk out the door. As the door closed, Bai Wei opened her eyes in the darkness. Actually, during those few short steps from the living room to the bedroom, her mind had already gone completely blank. She was nervous to the extreme, but never expected what awaited was a sweet good night. She gripped the edge of the quilt with her small hand and pulled it up to her nose, the faint scent of body wash lingering on the quilt. For the first time in her life, she didn't curl up her body, but stretched out and wrapped tightly in the quilt and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, the rain that had poured all night finally began to ease. Well-rested Bai Wei got up early and changed into the clothes dried last night. To fulfill her promise of doing housework in exchange, she conscientiously helped tidy up my bedroom spotlessly, but when she tiptoed out of the room, she suddenly froze in place. I had been so exhausted last night. With a towel wrapped around my lower body, I had fallen dead asleep on the sofa under the blanket. At this moment, my back was facing her, but that towel which should have been wrapped around me had at some point completely fallen off onto the floor. Bai Wei's face instantly flushed a deep red. To distract herself, she skillfully used ingredients from the fridge to make sandwiches and hot milk. But the embarrassing scene from before kept flashing uncontrollably through her mind. Just as Bai Wei brought breakfast to the table, I also woke up on the sofa, half asleep and half awake. I instinctively reached toward the nightstand searching for my service weapon, but only touched the cold glass of the coffee table. I quickly propped myself up with my left hand to sit up. The old shoulder injury from chasing down a violent criminal in my memory didn't bring even a hint of pain. I pressed my temples, frowning, lifted the towel. The skin under my gaze instantly clashed with my memory. The knife scars from past fights had disappeared, replaced by a smooth, youthful body as good as new. I was now fully awake. I had really returned to 10 years ago. I suddenly turned my head toward the wide-open bedroom door. My heart skipped a beat. Only upon seeing her busy silhouette in the kitchen did I fall heavily back onto the sofa, letting out a long breath of relief. Thank goodness. It wasn't a dream. She had really survived that stormy night. In my past life, as a detective, I carried endless self-blame and exhaustion, never having enjoyed even a single day of a young person's life. Now she was still here. My youth had also returned. This time, I decided to truly live this life over properly. Gu Nanxing. Time to get up and eat. I've already made breakfast. Not sure if it suits your taste. Bai Wei peeked out from the dining area. Calling out gently, I sat up, sniffing toward the aroma. An enticing scent of wheat and milk drifted through the air, coming right away. I walked to the dining table. Bai Wei was sitting there quietly waiting for me. Next time, you don't need to wait for me. Just eat first. It's fine. I have to wait to wash dishes together with you anyway. Try it. The taste and presentation need improvement. I'll do that next time. This skill could open a shop on the street behind school. When the time comes, I'll handle the register and you'll be the chef. I used to be quite diligent living alone. Now I'm just living life following you around. I'm afraid I'm going to turn into a lazy little pig. Bai Wei cupped her cheeks with both hands, her smile growing even brighter. I took a bite of the sandwich. The warm fried egg and melted cheese slid across my tongue, tasting surprisingly good. Pulling out a tissue, I casually wiped the bit of oil from the tip of her nose. Bai Wei's ears instantly turned red. She lowered her head shyly and stirred the milk in her cup. After breakfast, I was about to clear the dishes when my hand brushed against hers. Her hand was soft, yet surprisingly cold. Bai Wei insisted on handling all the housework herself. With remarkable efficiency, she cleaned the kitchen until it was spotless. The moment she stepped out, she immediately looked around, ready to find more work to do. I grabbed her small hand and firmly guided her onto the sofa. You don't look very energetic. For the next 2 days, you're not allowed to do any work. I'm the owner of this house, so you have to obey my orders and get some proper rest. Otherwise, I'll have to kick you out. Bai Wei was completely intimidated by my serious tone. She obediently nodded. Later, come shopping with me. I'll buy you some new clothes. I can go home and get my old clothes. The moment home was mentioned, her expression became visibly uneasy. There was hesitation in her eyes. No need. We'll buy new ones. If you don't have money, just consider it a loan from me. Principal and interest included. You can stay here and work as my housekeeper. Once you've worked long enough to repay it, then we'll talk. And if you can't pay it back, I'm not letting you leave. Bai Wei could clearly hear the concern hidden behind my words. A warm feeling spread through her heart, At last, she revealed a peaceful smile and softly agreed. Where do you usually buy clothes? Shuk? There's a secondhand clothing shop around the corner. You can get a full outfit there for 50 yuan. But I disinfect everything carefully. I boil them 3 times in soapy water and dry them in the sun. Her voice grew quieter. She seemed afraid I would look down on her because of it. Suddenly, a place came to mind. They had excellent clothes there. Before she realized it, I had already taken her hand. Bai Wei stumbled half a step forward. Her forehead lightly bumped against my shoulder blade. She didn't pull away. Instead, she quietly let me lead her. We stopped in front of a glass display window at the corner of the street. The tailor shop's wooden door stood slightly open. The gentle ringing of a brass bell blended with the lazy music from an old gramophone. Bai Wei glanced at the expensive fabrics displayed inside. Nervously, she tugged at my sleeve. The owner is one of my mother's old classmates. She specializes in student clothing. The prices aren't expensive. Don't worry. I pushed open the door. The scent of freshly pressed cotton filled the shop. Behind the counter, Zhu Yi looked up. Her gaze immediately landed on our joined hands. A knowing smile appeared at the corners of her eyes. What a beautiful girl. Nancheng, did you bring your girlfriend here to buy clothes? Bai Wei's face instantly turned bright red. Sensing her nervousness, I gently let go of her hand. Zhu Yi, help her pick out some seasonal outfits. And a few sets of underwear, too. Make sure it's pure cotton. Smiling, Zhu Yi led Bai Wei behind a fitting curtain. The curtain barely covered her. Bai Wei felt as though she was still exposed to my gaze. Embarrassed, she kept hiding among the clothing racks. I moved to the window and sat down, pretending to browse a catalog. Yet every soft voice from behind the curtain reached my ears clearly. You really don't need to listen to Auntie. A woman should dress for herself. Underwear is worn underneath. As long as you like it, that's all that matters. This set would absolutely drive that brat Nancheng crazy. You like it, he'll like it too. 2 birds with 1 stone. Bai Wei wanted to explain our relationship, but when the words reached her lips, she couldn't say them. In the end, she could only nod with a flushed face. After choosing the underwear, Zhu Yi brought several more outfits into the fitting area. Listening to the rustling sounds behind the curtain, a thin layer of sweat formed on the back of my neck. My imagination kept running wild. Then the curtain suddenly opened. Does it look strange? Bai Wei lightly held the hem of her dress and turned in a small circle. Morning sunlight wrapped around her. The honey-colored cotton dress swayed gracefully. My throat tightened. I immediately stood up and adjusted her shirt collar. The second button is wrong. My fingers accidentally brushed against her skin. I quickly pulled my hand back as if shocked. Then I grabbed a straw sun hat and placed it on her head, trying to hide my embarrassment. Looks like both of you are very satisfied. Try this one too. The curtain opened again. The semi-transparent linen fabric outlined her slender figure beneath the morning light. For a moment, I couldn't look away. Zhu Yi had an incredible eye. Every outfit fit her perfectly. Seeing that she was getting carried away, I quickly stopped her. All right. Aunt Shu, that's enough. My card is about to reach its limit. What are you afraid of? Just ask your mother to reimburse you later. Spending money on your future daughter-in-law would make her happy. I thought you two were already practically married. I could only smile helplessly and beg her to spare me. Laughing, Zhu Yi gave us a massive discount. While checking out, she wrapped the underwear separately. Then she leaned close and whispered in my ear. I've already inspected your little girlfriend's figure for you. I immediately choked on my breath. My ears turned red as I handed over my credit card. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Bai Wei standing by the window. Bathed in sunlight, she looked youthful and beautiful. For a brief moment, the memory of a tragic photograph from my previous life flashed through my mind. My fists clenched tightly. I silently swore to myself. As long as I was alive, I would protect this precious happiness no matter what. After finishing with the clothes, all that remained were bedding supplies. I carried the shopping bags and walked ahead. Bai Wei followed a few steps behind, secretly stealing glances at me. Inside the shopping bag, the mint green lace skirt fluttered gently in the breeze. The home goods section was on the 4th floor. Just pick whatever you like. After all, you're the one who'll be sleeping with it. At that moment, we looked just like a young couple out on a date. With nervousness and sweetness in her heart, she entered the bedding store beside me. The warm yellow lights made everything feel soft and cozy. I pushed the shopping cart while following her. Watching her bend down to compare products, I suddenly felt like a newlywed husband furnishing a home. Isn't this too expensive? Too expensive? If you like it, try it first. I grabbed a silk comforter and stuffed it into her arms. She smiled but said nothing. While I crouched by a shelf comparing fillings, she quietly returned the expensive comforter, then picked up a cheaper light green cotton one. This one feels pretty nice. What? The quality is nowhere near as good. Then I realized the price had scared her away. I gently tapped her forehead. Good bedding improves sleep quality. Besides, you won't be staying in the guest room forever. We can always keep these for guests later. The words hit her differently. Not staying in the guest room. Us. Those simple phrases carried a deeper meaning. She froze for a moment. Come try this mattress. Before she could react, I pulled her onto the soft display bed, then slipped a memory foam pillow behind her head. My hand lightly supported her waist through the fabric. Baiwei sank into the soft bedding. Her cheeks turned slightly red. The air around her seemed filled with sweetness. After everything was chosen, she looked at the bedding inside the cart, then quietly said, Thank you, Gu Nancheng. I suddenly stopped walking. She bumped lightly into my back. You don't need to say thank you anymore. Actions speak louder than words. Before you've repaid me, no matter what happens, you're not allowed to get hurt. Though stunned, she still nodded obediently. Let's go home. After paying and arranging delivery, I carried the clothing bags and took her home. As we passed an old snack shop on the corner, the fragrance of sweet osmanthus rice wine drifted through the air. I bought a steaming rice cake, blew on it gently, then held it to her lips. She took a bite. A bit of sweet osmanthus syrup stuck to the corner of her mouth. I wiped it away with my thumb. Is it good? It's sweet and really delicious. Next time, I'll take you to the snack street. There are even more good things to eat there. Hearing my promise, she stared at my back with dreamy eyes. What I didn't know was that she still remembered the promise we made as children in the park. When we returned home with the toiletries, the bedding had already arrived. I was kneeling on the guest room floor, struggling to put a duvet cover on. Baiwei stood nearby, holding a brand new pillow. Let me do it. I'll handle it. I'm afraid you'll somehow sew yourself into the blanket. I shook out the new moon-patterned bedsheet, then turned around and spread it open like a curtain dot. I spread the bedsheet over her like a curtain. Now this entire bed and this whole room belongs to you, at least until you're tired of it. Those simple words struck deep into her heart. She suddenly turned away. I immediately noticed a faint scent of tears in the air. Her shoulders trembled unnaturally. She was crying. Perhaps for the first time in her life, she finally understood what it felt like to have a home. Trying to lighten the mood, I joked, Don't get too emotional yet. I'm still going to charge you rent. You can stay here, sure. But you'd better start thinking about how you're going to repay your debt. Hearing that, Baiwei wiped the corners of her eyes. When she turned back around, her eyes were slightly red. Yet a bright, radiant smile bloomed across her face. After settling everything for Baiwei, I collapsed onto the sofa, ready to finally relax. Suddenly, the doorbell rang sharply. Baiwei instinctively stepped back in fright. After the tragedy of my previous life, my nerves were stretched to the limit. I didn't dare lower my guard for even a second. I was terrified that the killer hiding in the shadows might be standing outside that door. I immediately jumped up and shielded her behind me. Sensing my excessive protectiveness, Baiwei looked surprised. Yet a trace of sweetness appeared in her eyes. Like a soldier facing an enemy, I cautiously looked through the peephole. To my surprise, the person outside was Jiang Yan, the biggest suspect in my investigation. In my previous life, Jiang Yan had never visited my house on this day. The timeline had changed. This unexpected visit instantly raised all my alarms. Suppressing my racing heartbeat, I opened the door. Jiang Yan? What brings you here? What? I can't visit a friend? Last night, the wind and rain were crazy. You ran so far. I was worried you'd catch a cold. So I asked my mom to teach me how to make a warming soup. I brought some for you. Looking at the thermos in her hands, I suddenly understood. My actions last night, running through the rain to help her, had moved her. And that small change had created a butterfly effect. Looking at the girl before me, whose loyalty to friends was written all over her face, I didn't know how to react. My head actually does feel a little heavy. Then hurry up and drink it while it's hot. Jiang Yan was about to step inside when she suddenly noticed Baiwei behind me. She froze. Her eyes immediately darted between us. Baiwei? You know each other? Oh, I get it. Hello, sister-in-law. Looks like I came at the wrong time. This brown sugar ginger soup is best served hot. It's great for sister-in-law too. Oh, right. I still have to go take care of my mom at the hospital. With that, Jiangyan turned around and ran off. Watching her cheerful figure disappear, my emotions became complicated. It was hard for me to believe that someone so loyal and sincere could be a ruthless killer. More than ever, I hoped to find another suspect. Someone who could clear her name in my heart. Bai Wei watched the direction Jiangyan had left. Everyone says she's the school's bully, but she doesn't seem like that at all. You can't judge a book by its cover. She has her own story. Things aren't always what they seem. I opened the thermos. A rich aroma of ginger and red dates filled the room. I poured 2 bowls, then handed one to Bai Wei. You got soaked last night, too. You don't look very healthy lately. Drink more. The sweet and spicy soup slid down our throats. Warmth immediately spread through our bodies. I've always heard people talk badly about her. I never expected her to be such a nice person. Life forced her into that position. She wasn't originally like that. When she heard those words, Bai Wei's expression dimmed. Clearly, the phrase forced by life had touched a wound deep inside her as well. As for Bai Wei's family, I knew very little. In my previous life, while investigating her case, I had searched for her parents, but found almost nothing. Her parents were divorced. Both had started new families. She had always lived with her mother. Because of that, I was certain of one thing. The reason she came to me during that stormy night had everything to do with her family. Back then, neighbors told me that Bai Wei had run out of her house in the rain after a violent conflict with her stepfather. They even said she had stabbed him. Yet when I questioned the family, they denied everything. According to them, the stepfather had simply slipped on the floor and accidentally fallen onto a knife her mother was using to peel apples. They also claimed he only scolded Bai Wei after finding photos of a boy on her phone. That was supposedly what caused the argument. Shortly after Bai Wei left, they went to the hospital. The surveillance footage confirmed their timeline. That eliminated them as suspects. But when they learned of Bai Wei's death, her stepfather showed almost no reaction. Her mother, however, collapsed on the spot. Not long afterward, she lost her mind. What hurt me even more was discovering that after leaving her mother's house, Bai Wei had also gone to her father's home. But she didn't stay long. Soon she left again. The surveillance footage showed her, walking away with her head lowered, looking even more devastated than before. That stormy night, both of the families she called home had rejected her. Only then did she come to me. I couldn't imagine how much despair she felt when she knocked on my door. Every time I thought about it, regret drowned me like a tidal wave. Fortunately, fate had given me another chance. This time, I would never let go of her hand. Carrying a cup of hot milk, I walked toward the sofa. Bai Wei was sitting quietly in the corner, reading a book. The warm light outlined her slender figure. I noticed her absent-mindedly rubbing a pale crescent-shaped scar on the inside of her left wrist. Try this. I added some honey. I placed the glass in her hands. She was about to thank me, but remembered my rule and swallowed the words. Through the rising steam, I noticed she was reading a book I had casually left on the shelf. What? Planning to become a fortune teller? Maybe. When I learn enough, I'll read your future too. She smiled mischievously. Just then, a sharp screech of brakes echoed from outside. Bai Wei instantly stiffened. The milk nearly spilled from her hands. I quickly grabbed her trembling fingers. After confirming nothing had happened outside, I sat beside her. Holding her hand gently, I said, "Don't worry. You still owe me a debt. Until it's paid off, nobody is allowed to take you away." Already startled, Bai Wei's heart began racing even faster. "When you learn fortune telling, check whether we're compatible. I'm worried you might bring bad luck to your creditor." Her face immediately turned bright red. What I didn't know was that she had secretly checked our compatibility long ago, and the result was surprisingly perfect. "So, what's your dream university?" "I have a few ideas, but I haven't decided yet. My plan is simple. Wherever you apply, I'll apply too. You owe me a huge debt. If I don't keep an eye on you, you might run away. Then I'd lose everything." Bai Wei slowly stirred her spoon in circles. Looking into my smiling eyes, a sweet ache rose in her chest. "I want to apply to Jing University or Kyoto Medical University for psychology. Those aren't easy schools. Why psychology?" A thought suddenly crossed my mind. Could her mother's breakdown have something to do with mental illness? Bai Wei opened her mouth, then closed it again. She chose not to explain. "It's a good major, and maybe it will help strengthen my own mind." I'll work as hard as I can. Then I'll tutor you." She looked at me in surprise. My grades were only average. Meanwhile, she was one of the best students in the class. "What? You don't believe me?" "No, you're lying. When you lie, you can't look people in the eyes, and you pause before speaking. I know." To her, those words meant. I had been quietly paying attention to her all along. The sweetness in her heart surpassed even the honey milk. To prove myself, I grabbed a practice workbook, then rapidly solved page after page. Fast and accurate. In my previous life, I had studied almost obsessively to enter the People's Public Security University and hunt down the killer. These questions had long become part of me. Watching me reveal hidden academic talent, admiration sparkled in Baiwei's eyes. "Doesn't that mean I owe you tutoring fees too? What if I can never repay you?" "Then hurry up and sign a contract. A lifetime contract." I jokingly handed her a pen and paper. I never expected her to actually take it. She lowered her head and began writing seriously. Curious, I leaned closer to see. But on the paper, she had only written, "Lifetime contract, contracting party, Baiwei," and then left a large blank space underneath. She smiled and handed the paper back to me. "The terms in the middle are too small. You can fill them in yourself, Mr. Creditor." "Then doesn't that mean I can do whatever I want?" "What kind of service would you like, my dear creditor?" She flashed a playful smile. I suddenly leaned close to her ear. My warm breath brushed against the back of her neck, making her shiver from the ticklish sensation. "No service required, but I do have one order." Hearing that, Baiwei nervously swallowed. "Tonight, you must be asleep before midnight, and you're not allowed to get up before 7 tomorrow. I'll make breakfast." She looked at me in surprise. Then warmth filled her heart. With a bright smile, she replied, "Understood, Mr. Creditor." That night, under my strict orders, Baiwei obediently went to bed. I brought her a cup of hot milk, then stepped back toward the door. "It's okay." After I left, she stared at the doorknob for a moment. But in the end, she never locked the door. Back in my bedroom, I let out a long breath. In my previous life, I buried myself in work to escape my guilt. I solved cases obsessively. I even turned down the easy position my mentor offered me, because I was afraid that if I slowed down, I would think about her. Now, 10 years in the past, she was alive, and I was finally free. After convincing myself to relax, I slowly drifted into sleep. In my dream, I returned to a corner of the old park. A little girl, delicate as a porcelain doll, was quietly crying. "Why are you still crying at your age?" "I'm not crying." "Did someone bully you?" "I'll make them apologize." The little girl quickly grabbed his arm. "It has nothing to do with them." Little Gu Nancheng pulled out a clean handkerchief his mother had prepared, then gently wiped away her tears. "Why are you staring at me like that?" He made a silly face at his reflection in a puddle. The little girl burst into laughter. "My name is Gu Nancheng. I come here all the time. If you're ever unhappy, come find me." Then his mother's voice called from afar. The little boy ran off. "Ring! Ring! Ring!" The alarm clock exploded beside my bed. I suddenly opened my eyes. Why did I dream about my childhood? At the same moment, Baiwei was trapped in that same dream. Dad and Mom are going to leave me. Don't cry. I thought it was something serious. My parents both left me, and I didn't cry. Little Baiwei stared at him in surprise. She had never seen someone so strong. He suddenly pulled her into a hug, then awkwardly tried to comfort her. "What happens after your parents leave?" "I'll live with my grandparents. The adults said they'll come back after they're done. I heard they'll have new families, and they won't want me anymore. I'm scared." The little boy wiped away her tears again, then held her hand. "Then come live at my house. My house is pretty big. My parents always wanted a daughter. We can be a family." It was just a child's innocent words. Yet they made Baiwei cry even harder. For the first time, she felt there was a place for her in this world. But after that day, she never came back. Instead, she left a note full of gratitude and placed it where they always met. At the end of the dream, Baiwei watched the boy's departing figure. Her eyes were already filled with tears. I knocked on the guest room door and woke her up. At breakfast, I had specially prepared red date, red bean, barley, and lily porridge for her. Watching her carefully sip it like a kitten afraid of getting burned, I found myself staring. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "You suddenly remind me of someone. A little girl I met when I was young. We played together for less than half a month. Then she moved away. You look a lot like her." "Didn't she say goodbye?" At Baiwei's question, I fell into thought. No, she didn't. I only found a torn note afterward. That's how I knew she was gone. The note had been ruined by rain. Only half of it remained. Looking at Baiwei, I felt she looked even more like that little girl. I asked if she'd ever met a little boy in a park when she was young. She simply smiled mischievously and told me to guess. Her happiness was obvious. At last, she understood why I hadn't reacted when hearing her name before. The note with her name on it had been destroyed long ago. Knowing I still remembered her, she rebelliously refused to give me the answer. I guess you're not her. Because you're much prettier. Her face instantly turned bright red. Seeing that reaction, I grinned proudly. After breakfast, I decided to take her out to buy a phone. After all, I couldn't keep her tied to my side 24 hours a day. At the same time, I was wondering how to ask my mother for money. After buying clothes and expensive bedding yesterday, my credit card was nearly maxed out. I had only texted her asking to borrow $5,000. Instead, she immediately transferred $50,000. Looking at her message, if it's not enough, tell mom. And focus on dating properly. I could only laugh helplessly. Clearly, Shui had already reported my shopping trip with a girl. With that powerful financial support, I finally felt relieved. It's Sunday. Do you have anywhere you want to go? I'd like to visit the park in the old district. The old district park. The exact place where I had met that little girl years ago. Combined with everything she'd said, her family background, and the way she hesitated whenever she lied, all the pieces suddenly clicked together. My heart skipped a beat. In my previous life, her death had plunged my world into darkness. I never had the energy to think about childhood memories. But now looking back carefully, I finally realized the truth. She was that little girl. The park is great for flying kites. Let's buy one. And afterward we'll visit the snack street. Really? I've never flown a kite before. Seeing her excitement like a child receiving a gift filled me with tenderness. Things ordinary people considered normal were precious experiences to her. I silently swore to myself. No matter how much color life had stolen from her, I would help her reclaim it. First, we're buying you a phone. If you don't carry one around, what if something happens? How would your creditor find you? Hearing my terrible excuse, she laughed and nodded. We pushed open the glass door of a phone store. The salesperson enthusiastically removed a display cover, then recommended a pink phone perfect for couples. At the word couple, Bai Wei shyly grabbed the edge of her pale green skirt. I pointed directly at the pink model priced at 4,888 yuan. When I noticed her staring at the price tag, I immediately blocked it with my hand. Don't look at things you're not supposed to. The creditor decides. The salesperson brought over a demo phone and taught us how to take selfies. As the camera swept across my face, Bai Wei panicked and pressed the shutter. The photo captured nothing but half of my shirt. A selfie looks best from this distance. I stepped behind her and gently wrapped my hand around hers. The warmth of my palm seeped through her skin. Almost touching her hair, I pressed the shutter button. The screen lit up. In the photo, she was looking slightly upward. My face was close to her hair, and the glass behind us reflected our overlapping silhouettes. To anyone else, we looked exactly like a young couple secretly taking selfies. After purchasing the phone, the salesperson suggested engraving matching initials for free. Let's engrave this. Bai Wei stared at the letters in confusion. The first three are your initials, but what do the last two mean? Even after leaving the store, she was still thinking about it. So distracted that she nearly tripped over the doorway, I quickly caught her in my arms. The faint scent of her hair drifted past me. Watch where you're walking, silly girl. You have to tell me. Otherwise, I'll keep thinking about it. For once, she tugged at my sleeve and acted spoiled. All right. You win. I'm your creditor, right? It stands for master. Though it could mean other things too. Bai Wei suddenly understood. Then another possibility crossed her mind. Her heartbeat instantly sped up, and her pretty face turned bright red again. Seeing her reaction, I secretly laughed. She had definitely thought of that other meaning. My man. But I didn't say it aloud. That mixture of insecurity and hope made her look especially adorable. The bus slowly rattled toward the old district, the place where our childhood memories overlapped. I took out one earbud and gently placed it in her ear. Have you heard this song before? I like it. At that moment, countless memories from my previous life flooded back. I had listened to this song over and over again late at night, mourning her death. The lyric, "Tonight I bloom like a night flower, only to wither at my most beautiful moment," felt like a prophecy of her fate. The melancholic cover played softly through the earphones. As Bai Wei listened, tears silently rolled down her cheeks. I didn't know that in her previous life, she had wanted to end everything countless times. The memory of that little boy in the park was what had kept her alive. These tears were her farewell to that lonely, broken version of herself. Lost in sorrow, I suddenly felt a soft hand touch my cheek. Bai Wei looked at me with heartbreaking concern. Just like she had long ago, she gently pulled me into a hug. The warmth from her embrace merged with the memory of the little girl who once comforted me. I didn't pull away. I let time stand still. Sunlight streamed through the bus window and swept away the shadows we'd carried for so long. After getting off the bus, the breeze of the old district carried the scent of camphor leaves, the breakfast stalls, the ringing bicycle bells. Nothing had changed. Bai Wei followed closely behind me through the narrow alleys, like a curious child exploring a new world. We stopped at a kite stand, and at first glance, she fell in love with a peach-pink butterfly kite.